there's so much fighting over left and right and red and blue and fear of immigrants versus open tolerance and the climate change. Is it a hoax? Is it actual science? And so we're looking at all these different polarities. And so many books and movies come out to us now with this dystopic vision, this vision of even the resistance, the name of resistance, that comes, at least one part of it comes from the new Star Wars movies, which are so dark and full of a lot of killing and death, and the resistance is down to like a handful of people trying to really hold firm with this galactic empire. So we're used to the Game of Thrones and all these different movies and books and images of dystopia, societies which really work with dysfunction. And then if you look at the opposite end of that polarity, though, the opposite of dystopia, if you go online, if you look at a dictionary, is utopia. And if you go in and look at the definition of utopia, it's called fairyland, fantasy, paradise, heaven, wonderland, dreamland, or the hereafter. That's what utopia is defined as. So it's no surprise to me that we really don't have a clear vision of how to move forward, because we're thinking the opposite of what we have is just a fairyland, just a dreamland. We can't have health care for all in this country, even though the rest of the world is moving towards that. We can't have maternity care, paternity care, even though, again, the whole rest of the world has that, because it's a dreamland, it's a utopia. So when we are looking at, we can't have conscious understandings of having weapons of destruction against the population, because that is a dream. It can't be done. So whatever the opposite polarity that we're holding at the moment, nationally or globally, we can't have food enough on this planet to feed everyone when there actually is food enough on the planet to feed everyone. We can't have everyone having health care, having a home, a shelter, having food. Actually, everyone can have that. It's just that we keep saying we can't because that's a fairy tale. That's a dream. That's impossible. So we're still working with these polarities in our minds. One is which we actually are pretty much living or afraid that we're living, and the other one is a dream. So how do we stand as light workers in this 11-11-11 doorway and really anchor in a sense of, a true sense of, what's a vision? What's a vision can we hold? What would be a true vision that we could move towards? What are the steps we could move towards? And if you know anything about Hermetic writings, which have supposedly come down from antediluvian times, from ancient times, from Hermes, and it says, as above, so below, and as within, without. So if we're looking without as light workers, and if you're listening to this call, then you might not identify yourself as a light worker, but you are a light worker. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening or hearing these words. So as we look out at our personal life, what's going on in our personal life, or in our national, which is so much energy is being focused the last 2 years on our national scene, and the global scene. As we focus outward, then it's a mirror, like those 11-11 doorways. It's a mirror into ourselves. And as we work within ourselves, and then the external shifts and changes. So it's very fascinating to work within these time fractals and to understand how powerful we really are as an individual, but then as a group consciousness. I just was looking online yesterday, and I saw in my Apple feed, my news feed, about finally this groups are starting to work on consciousness, because in the field of psychology, consciousness has been thrown out for over 100 years, and I was trained just in strict behaviorism, And then finally they were allowing in cognitive thoughts to come in. But the word consciousness was a dirty word. And now they're talking about working with consciousness on a global level. And they're finally starting to go, some of the scientists are finally starting to move forward the way light workers and those of us in the field of light work have been working and understanding consciousness and how it is a collective. There is a collective. So there's a global consciousness project happening now in Princeton, and they're aligned with the Institute of Noetic Sciences. And they're looking at these random number generators, and around the globe, I think they have 70, 80 locations, and it's just random. They're just pinging random sequences. But when something globally happens that captures a lot of attention, they're noticing that the Earth is responding, and that the Earth is actually responding to more and more people putting their awareness on that one incident. And the person who actually first brought this to my attention was Lee Carroll. He does wonderful work, Lee Carroll, and cryon.com is his website. He talked about this years ago, where these random generators they started noticing a pattern, and it started happening around 9/11 with the World Trade. All of a sudden, they stopped being random. They started forming a coherent pattern of everybody focusing on 9/11 globally. Another one was the tsunami in the Indian Ocean area where 250,000 people were killed. Again, the random generator stopped being so random. It became more coherent. Another one was Princess Diana, her funeral, and the whole world kind of stopped and watched this funeral. They weren't doing it perhaps at the time of JFK or some of the other unbearable global events that captures everyone's attention, but it shows that our global consciousness really forms a coherent whole, and we kind of we send out a vibrational message, a set point message. And then the wonderful thing he said was they were all around, the numbers of those that were finding the group awareness was around negative events, but the one positive one was the Chilean miners, those 33 miners, when the whole world stopped and focused on getting those 33 miners from underground up, and every single one of them came up. And again, that generator, 80 different locations around the whole world, stopped being random. It just focused. And Lee Carroll said that's the first time that we have recorded information of compassion and something positive and optimistic grabbing the world stage and being our set point of what we're vibrating as a humanity.